In this video, I want to show you a practical way that you can add depth and power to your kick drum sounds using just a few parameters within Superior Drummer 3. What we're going to do is layer in electronic samples from the core Superior Drummer 3 library along with the acoustic kick drum sound. We'll make some velocity curve adjustments to make the stacked layer more organic sounding, and then we will use the tuning and envelope parameters to come up with as many variations as we can to adjust the stacked kick drum sound. Now to start, I'm going to go into my mixer menu. We'll go to Clean Kits, and we'll use the Premiere default setup. Let's take a quick listen to how this sounds. And I'm using MIDI from within the Superior Drummer 3 chord library. Now, I really like this Premiere kick. It's already a great bass drum sound to start with. But we're going to see if we can enhance that even more. With the bass drum selected, I'm going to go into the More menu, and I'll choose Stack, Add to the Open Hit. I'm using the open articulation because that is currently the articulation being used in these MIDI blocks. From here, I'm going to select the Superior Drummer 3 electronic sounds from the core library, and I'm going to type in the search element. I want to use the elements kick. Now be aware that a lot of these electronic sounds are quite a bit louder than the acoustic sounds, so adjust your speakers accordingly. Click on Stack to open, and now we've stacked that sample onto the kick drum. Now initially, because of the volume difference, I'm going to bring down the volume of the stacked elements kick sample. Now right off the bat, let's take a listen to what that sounds like. Now we already have a completely different bass drum sound. It's a bit much, so we're going to make some adjustments to make it a bit more organic. Now the first thing I want to adjust is the velocity curve of the layered electronic sample. If we solo it, and we take a listen to the groove, notice when there's doubles, there's no difference in volume. A lot of times when you play on an acoustic bass drum, when you play doubles, the first note of the double is a bit softer. That just naturally happens. But with these samples, they're pretty much at the same volume. Especially compared to the acoustic sample. So we will address this using the velocity curve. I'm just going to bring down the curve. Make sure you have the electronic elements kick selected, so we're not adjusting the acoustic sample, which I have muted right now. And we'll bring the velocity curve down quite a bit. Now, I want this to be as organic and realistic as possible, so I'm going to use the soft curve preset. Now let's take a listen. A little bit more variation. That first note is a little bit softer. We can enhance that by using this soft hit level. We'll bring that down a little bit, which is going to, we can see the tooltip here. It'll basically bring those lower hits or lower volume samples and make them even softer without adjusting the louder samples or velocities. So just a way to increase this effect a bit more. Now when we mix that in with the acoustic kick and play the groove, it should sound a bit more realistic and organic. Now let's do a quick A-B. So I'm going to play the groove and mute the electronic element sound so you can hear the difference. Now again, a bit extreme, but I want you to hear the effect. We will back it off a bit later. A lot of times when you're fine-tuning an adjustment, you can start with a bit more of an aggressive mix and then bring it down later. That way you can really hear the changes that happen when you start making parameter adjustments. Now the first parameter adjustment I want to make at this point is to adjust the envelope of the electronic elements kick sample. So right now, has a lot of attack and a lot of sustain. And you're really hearing that in the mix with the acoustic bass drum. So we are going to subdue the attack by bringing the attack back several milliseconds, go to about 20 to 25. And that just brings the attack down just a bit. Let's compare. along with the acoustic bass drum. So the attack of the electronic bass drum is not so sharp, and I want to reduce the sustain too. So we'll use the release, we'll bring that in quite a bit, and then a nice feature within Superior Drummer 3 is we can adjust this curve slope, and that way it's not so linear, and we get, again, a little bit more of an organic release. So we don't have such a long tail. It gets out of the way a bit quicker. Let's listen to that with the acoustic bass drum. Now let's listen to it without those adjustments and compare. So to me, that sounds a lot more natural. We don't have that long sustain that gets in the way, and we have a nice enhanced bass drum sound. Another way we can get variation in our bass drum sound is to adjust the pitch or the tuning. We're going to use this tuning algorithm and make adjustments to the electronic elements kick. So if I increase it, we have a bit of a different sound, and when layered in with the acoustic bass drum, that will have an impact on the overall bass drum sound. We can go the other direction as well. And we can even use this process higher quality algorithm. So when using acoustic samples, this provides the most realistic tuning adjustments, but they can be used on electronic samples as well for a bit of a different sound. And I find that they work very well when pitching down. Just another variation in the sound that we can use. Now we can adjust the acoustic bass drum too for variation while leaving the elements kick alone. So this is the original tuning. Tune the bass drum up, and we'll go ahead and use the processed higher quality algorithm. And again, we can go the other direction. So pitching the acoustic drum down. And then any variation in between. We could bring contrast to both the acoustic and electronic instruments by pitching one up and the other down. Right now the bass drum is pitched down. Let's pitch the electronic elements kick sample up. Or vice versa. Elements kick down, acoustic bass drum up. Or again, we could pitch both up, both down for some additional variation. Now with both the drums pitched down, that's a nice effect, but I feel like we lose a little bit of the punch. So what we can do is actually go back to the elements kick and make further adjustments to the envelope. Maybe we want to bring back some of that attack now that we've made some tuning adjustments. So I'll just bring the attack back in for the elements kick. We'll keep the sustain and release short. And now we have a little bit more attack in this stacked bass drum sound. And again, if we wanted to, we could turn off the envelope completely or adjust the sustain and release any way we want, bring a little bit of that sustain back in. So a lot of different options here. Now again, I had the mix of this elements kick a bit higher than I would probably use in a production just so you can hear what it does. So let's dial that back a bit more. I'm going to change the pitch of the acoustic bass drum back to normal. Let's keep the pitch of the elements kick down. And let's bring back the attack and sustain close to where we had it before. So you can hear, even dialing it back, you have a nice difference in the sound when you add in the stacked elements electronic bass drum. Now very quickly, if we wanted to, we can make some additional adjustments by changing the actual instrument. Up to this point, we've used one stack and the same instrument, same acoustic bass drum, same electronic bass drum. We've just made adjustments to the velocity curve to make it a bit more realistic and organic, and we made adjustments to the tuning and envelope. So I could come in here and make an adjustment to the actual elements kick sample. We can right click and you can see we have a ton of different options to choose from. Let's go over here to the 909 Euro 1, so nice 909 sound. And here I'm going to turn off the envelope and offset. Can have a lot of attack on that, but we can see what that sounds like. Maybe we'll pitch that down a bit too. So a couple different options there. Let's go back to our elements kick, turn on our envelope settings, and we have it pitched down. And we'll bring the volume back down quite a bit. Now we can change the bass drum as well. So that's going to be adjusted over here since it's our main selection. And we'll just go down the line here. A couple different options. We'll use the Gresh bass drum. And we have a much bigger bass drum sound here. Another option here. So you can see, just by adding one electronic sample from the Superior Drummer 3 core library and making a few adjustments within Superior Drummer 3, we have a whole world of variation to add depth and punch to our kick drum. Really, we're just scratching the surface. There's so many variations in between everything I've shown. You can experiment with any of the other electronic drum sounds or acoustic drum sounds, and I'll leave that up to you to get creative and see what kind of stacked kick drum sounds you can come up with.